IPO Max.
You're listening to the Pool Boy Podcast.
"23 medals, 9 of them gold, took Britain to the top of the European medal table at the Short Course Championships in Otopeni, Romania last week. That gives us lots to talk about on this edition of the Pool Boy Podcast. Steve here, Bob and Katie are with me as well, and we're going to run the rule over what was a very encouraging British performance at the European Short Course. Bob, we were kind of hopeful that we'd get some good swimming. I don't think we thought it would be quite as good.
Nowhere near that. I mean, I knew that some of our swimmers were in decent form. They'd shown that in the lead up, and from all the soundings I'd got from around the country and different clubs, that swimmers were in pretty good nick going in. But let's be honest, very, very few actually underperformed, and many of them overperformed for where we thought they would be at this stage of the season. And I'm sure we're going to go to do the headline act very shortly, but absolutely thrilled for Ben Proud, because again, some people have not written him off exactly, but saying, well, is he ever going to quite break it through on a regular basis at that kind of level? And not did he only do that, he nearly got the world record as well in the 50 free. So it was great to see him, and that young man, from being the quite very shy, introverted swimmer that he is, not a 50 freestyler like most 50 freestylers are, has really blossomed and emerged so much so that you'd fancy him to do something big next year.
Well, that is as good a place to start as any, because he probably was the pick of the British team. 20.18 for a 50 metres freestyle, Katie. Absolutely astonishing, and you could tell it was fast just by watching it. It was poetry in motion.
Yeah, I mean, he just blows my mind. I think the more I watch Ben Proud, the more I kind of realise that 50 specialists, like, it's almost another sport. It just bears no resemblance to like any other event that's there. People who just hone in on the 50 free are kind of a different breed, and he just does it so well. There's just no room for any error at any point in his race, and it was perfect, really, wasn't it? And we just saw race after race, he just looked so good. And I know he just did 50 freestyles, but like that is his laser focus, and he needs that Olympic medal, and I think it should be a gold. So I can't wait to see what happens next summer.
And his starts, Steve, are so consistent, aren't they? I know it goes back to John Rugg days at Plymouth when he worked very hard on that, but he's carried that through. He never seems to let up when it comes to starts.
No, it's like he's been fired out of a cannon. He's so quick, and his skills are so good that it's just incredible. And one thing a couple of people picked up on, with me on social media, was that he was wearing a nose clip for the first time. We think it was the first time. I found no evidence of him wearing one before, but James Gibson said on Instagram it was a short course meters thing, and if you watch his race, he doesn't breathe. He did the whole 20.18 in one breath, and having the nose clip obviously helps him around the turn, not having to blow out through his nose. And it's just attention to detail like that, combined with just being an incredible swimmer and having incredible skills, and 20.18, 0.02 off the world record. Could have been, God, if he'd not cut his nails on the morning, maybe he'd have got it. But what a fabulous swim that was, and as Katie says, hopefully we will see him push on and get that Olympic medal to complete the set next year. Let's step up a little bit in distance. Sticking with the men, though, we saw the continued excellence of Matt Richards. Katie, he won the 200 free, and he seems to have David Popovic's number at the moment. I mean, he beat him again, beat him at Worlds, and maybe David's not at the top of his game, but Matt's making a habit of winning those races.
Yeah, and he's making a habit of winning the really close ones as well, which I think is really, really encouraging. And being at home is a real advantage. So, it couldn't really have been better from an atmosphere perspective for Popovic. Obviously we don't know where he is with his training. It seemed like last year was a bit of a tough year for him, but it's just really great to see that Matt seems to be peaking at the right time, and sort of so consistently as well.
And I like the different ways that he swims the race now, Steve, as well. I mean, he wasn't leading early on, took his time, put a massive burst in at the end, and I think we've seen him swim that many different ways now.
Well, he did, and this is this is a good time, I think, to bring up something that lots of people are commenting on, both for and against, on my social media, which is the two-per-nation rule. Because in that race, in particular, we had in the heats 4 British swimmers swimming, and only 2 can make it through to the semi-finals. So I think Matt's time in the heat was almost the fastest time he swam in all 3 rounds, because he had to get past Tom Dean, Jack McMillan, and James Guy to make sure he got his spot in the following round. So how do we feel about two-per-nation, Katie?
I feel pretty good about it. It's how it is in the big events, and I don't think it's a bad thing if we're being forced to swim fast in heats, because that's what we're going to need to do in Paris. So, I think it's really tough because I like seeing Tom Dean race, and I feel like I didn't see enough of Tom Dean race because he was sort of fell foul of that rule at least 3 times that I can think of. But it's going to be an absolute bum fight, isn't it, at trials to make that team, and then in Paris to make finals and semi-finals. So I think it's probably going to be a good thing for us in the long run.
What are the objections to not doing it?
I think a lot of the people who were tweeting at me were saying we should be able to take all of them through. I think rather than having
Why?
4 and then. Well, I mean, this was my reply to them. I think I can't see any reason why Len would want to have one country with 4 swimmers in the following round. I can see why they would like to have them in the heats, because some of the fields might have been a bit small if there hadn't been 4 Italians and 4 Brits and 3 French swimmers in them or whatever. But at the same time, as Katie says, every other meet is two-per-nation entered. So why would you do different?
Well, exactly that. And in most, obviously, Olympics and World Championships, you can only have 2 anyway. So these are rare events where you can have 4 and you can kind of mix and match. So no, I'm happy with 2. I don't see the objection to it, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no world in which I want to see 4 Italian breaststrokers in the women's 100 breaststroke final. I mean, it'd be boring.
Any more than the rest of the world want to see 4 Brits in the 200 free, probably.
Well, I'd quite like to see that, but no.
We would, yes, of course, but they would.
No, and obviously the quick caveat that Commonwealth Games does let 3 in, but I think that's again bulking out the field kind of measure as much as anything.
Yeah, because you only got 5 real swimming nations anyway for that.
Exactly, yeah. All right, well, that's the two-per-nations dealt with, but I did mention there, as we were talking about the 200 free, James Guy, Bob, he back on the individual podium for the 200 freestyle for the first time since 2016. Great to see. Absolutely great to see. And what a post-race interview as well that he gave to Nick Hope. Nick managed to push all the right buttons to get Jimmy to cry. But all that emotion from 7 years of trying to get those times came to the fore. And, he knows full well he's got another 8 months in the sport. So everything has to happen now, has to happen quickly. And he wants an individual medal. We talked about it in the preview program before the Europeans, that's one thing he doesn't have at Olympic level. He's got relay medals, but he wants an individual medal, and he wants to show that he is a great individual swimmer, which we know he is. But when people look at the stats when he retires, they're going to go, oh, look at all these great relay medals he's got. Nothing to show for it individually, in Olympic terms anyway. And good early signs, Katie, that his move to Millfield is a good one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it certainly looks positive. I know it's really early days and it's short course, and he's a brilliant long course swimmer and he's a brilliant relay swimmer. But as Bob said, he deserves to be remembered for more than being a brilliant relay swimmer. So I think it's looking really good. If he didn't get one of those individual 200 free spots for Paris, that is no reflection on him, it not being a good move, because we're just so strong in that event. But I'd like to see him get it. I don't know who I want to have those 2 spots because I like them all. But it would be great to hopefully we'll see him in the 100 fly as well. So
be interesting to see what he does in terms of the 100 fly when it comes to the Olympics. I mean, the 200 free is just so stacked right now that there's no guarantee. We can't even at this stage say who the 2 are going to make it from GB individually. So I do hope that he's going to put his eggs in the 100 free basket, the 100 fly basket, as well as the 200 free as well.
Well, he swam a lifetime best in the 100 fly as well over in Romania. So, yeah, it's a good start for him with his new regime, and we'll watch that closely as we head towards trials. Maybe he'll go to... Well, he was very vocal that he wasn't going to Doha, but maybe he's starting stance will have changed with what's going on in the meantime. We never know, but we will watch his form with interest over the next few months. You mentioned Jacob Peters there, Bob. He had a really good week, actually. He took bronze in the individual 100 fly, lifetime best. He set a British record in the 50 fly, broke Ben Proud's mark. And that's a really good sign to give James some competition in that event. He's been a bit of our standout for a little while.
Yeah, he has, and obviously place on the medley relay as well. That's not a given at the moment for James because of Jacob's performance. So we've always needed, but we certainly need right now 2 in every event, more than 2 if we can get them. And the competition for the 100 fly place on the medley relay is intense.
Now, the relay question is an interesting one, Katie. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, really, I think, because Jacob swum really well individually. He hasn't quite yet shown that same form in the relays. Is that a familiarity thing? Do you think, is he putting pressure on himself because of the team? I mean, there could be any sorts of reasons, but it's important that he kind of works through that, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one to know because I haven't seen enough of him swimming in relays, but one of the problems that he's going to be up against is however well he swims, however fast he goes, you've always got the sort of X factor of James Guy in a relay. He's not just, it's not just how fast you go off a start. There's something extra that James Guy always finds when he's on a GB relay. So I think assuming that those are our 200 fly swimmers when it come Paris, I think Jacob would have to put in a really, really special performance to get that edge over James, but maybe there'll be some chances to swim relays and he can prove himself a little bit more and feel more comfortable in it in the lead up to Paris, and we can see that maybe he's the more reliable choice. It's going to be a really hard one for the selectors, I think.
It will be indeed, but everything will become clear in due course. Stepping on again, someone else who's returning to their top form was Duncan Scott, and it feels a bit strange to say returning to his top form because we've been so used to him just being on top form all the time, but he's had a difficult couple of years with his health and what have you, but British record in the 200 medley and right up there with his best time in the 400 medley. Bob, it's great to see the Duncan that we know and love kind of coming back.
Always consistent at big events, never lets GB down, and again, just showing his prowess, both the IMs. I know that he's desperate for a Olympic individual gold, and he just looks in that kind of form, and you never write him off because of the intensity, the effort he puts in, the work rate he puts in. He is Mr. Solid as far as I'm concerned. He's so rarely off the pace, and showed that whether it's talking short course or long course like we did last week, he's always there or thereabouts.
And Katie, you said to me it was strange watching him meet and feeling like you hadn't seen much of Duncan Scott because we're so used to him swimming every 5 minutes, and he had a really narrow program for him. Ended up only swimming the 200, 400 IM, and then the heats of the men's 4x50 free. But do you think that's indicative of maybe where his season is heading?
I don't know. It's tricky to know. I mean, obviously the 200 IM is going to be a real medal chance for him in Paris, but I think it's kind of a reflection on. He's probably deciding where he needs to focus and where that's going to lie, bearing in mind the 200 freestyle is as competitive as we've discussed already. I think it's probably beneficial for him to swim a bit of a sort of more contained program for once and just see really what he can do, because I guess it's one of the perils of being as good as he is. He rarely gets to show exactly how good he is because he's spread so thinly when it comes to the main events. But I mean, I've got no idea what we're going to see him swimming in Paris, but we will see him swimming something in Paris. I'm pretty confident about that.
Do you think he would do the 400 IM for Paris?
I don't know when it falls.
First day, is it?
Well, it would always used to have been first day, but I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with the new 9-day programme as to whether it's still on the first day. I think it probably is because they'll need some medal events, won't they? But
if it's day one, I wouldn't be surprised if he swam it. But I guess a consideration is we don't know how much the last couple of years and the health issues that he's had have taken a toll. And, do you want to put your eggs in the 200 AM basket, or do you want to risk kind of, making yourself pretty exhausted in the 400 AM.
Well, I expected him to come back in the 400, didn't you? I was looking at the gap going into the freestyle leg, and I thought, oh, he'll come back here, and he didn't. So maybe that's an indicator that perhaps the 400 is not quite where he wants it to be.
Yeah, my only thought on that is that the other guy saw an absolute blinder of a race, the Italian that won it.
Rossetti, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily think that Duncan faded. I just thought like that guy was having the race of his life. I still thought he looked really good. And it was all there in the 200, wasn't it? So, I mean, I think that's probably more his focus than the 4. Imagine having 400 AM as your bonus event.
Well, I've checked the programme. 400 AM is on day 2 in Paris.
Weird.
Clashes with the 200 free heats and semi-finals.
No.
But if that, no, it's far from a given. 4x1 on the first day, obviously. So we'll see, won't we? But I think it's more of a short course event for him, albeit he is the British record holder in long course as well. So never say never with Duncan, as we were saying. We will see on that front. Someone else who's had a bit of a break come back, swam really well, another British record in the 200 back. That was Luke Greenbank. Katie, he had a bit of a wobble earlier this year, took some time out of the pool, went off and did some other stuff, but he's come back with a bang.
Yeah, I'm so pleased. I think it must be really, really hard to come back from a tough year like that. And he's looked absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I know he didn't take the gold, but how amazing to get a British record and look so strong with it. I think he's a much better long course swimmer than short course. So I feel really encouraged by that and really pleased to see him back.
It's a weird thing to say, but actually not going to the World Championships this year, I think, has actually been a benefit to him.
Well, he certainly looked refreshed, didn't he, this week? And he was swimming very well. So, yeah, maybe that break will be a blessing in disguise.
Is he just going to concentrate on 200 going forward? I would, if I was advising him, to forget the 100 now. 200, put your eggs in that basket.
Well, I think he's also in a place, and I was going to bring this up anyway, where the rest of the backstroke cohort, if you like, are actually taking the pressure off him from the 100. If we had a Jonathan Adam went, I think, 53.6 in Rotterdam the week before this meet. Obviously, we know what Ollie Morgan did in Fukuoka. So, I think the imperative that Luke swims the 100 has kind of gone from him, and I wonder if that pressure kind of coming off a little bit will help him as well. But we'll see going forwards. I'm sure he'll still swim it, but it's not like everyone's putting all their relay eggs in his basket, so to speak, for that medley relay. So that may help him as well. So there we are. But yes, great to see him.
What do relay eggs look like, I wonder?
Well, it's a very good question.
Sort of baton shape.
I thought that halfway through that metaphor, but there we are. All right. The men, before we move on and talk about the ladies' performance, the men also picked up a couple of relay medals, and one name on the freestyle legs of those I wanted to mention was Alex Cahoon, who was making his senior international debut. He swam at the European Under-23s in the summer, swam very well there, but he came in and I thought was excellent, because making his debut, swimming in the final of the 4x50 relay, he's swum after Ben Proud and Matt Richards, gone in first, and he could easily have got overwhelmed, Katie, by being in that situation in his first international, and he swam so well, didn't overswim the first lap, came back, held on strongly at the end and gave Lewis Burris every chance to take the gold, which they duly did. But really impressive debut. Yeah,
brilliant. And I think it is something we've talked about in the summer that we are maybe getting a bit better at. People aren't happy with just getting on teams. They now want to be on teams and really perform. And I think we're seeing a lot less of the, people doing something blinding at trials and then just not following it up when they get to the big event. I know there wasn't a trials as such for this, but everyone performed, I think, pretty much. We didn't have anyone who was disappointing this week, which is great. And I think doing that and doing it that well on your very first, senior international is a really, really big thing to do.
And he was 48 low, I think, individually long course in the summer. So it's another name who will be watching that 4x1 relay squad very closely. I'm sure he's got designs on making it into that group for Paris, but fabulous to have another person throwing their name into the ring. All right, that's enough of the men. Let's talk about the ladies team, because for the first time in a little while that I can remember, the women won more medals at the meet than the men did. So it was 13 medals from the women's team to 9 from the men's team. And nice to see that the ladies getting amongst it, Katie.
Yeah, always good. And like quite a few people who probably, didn't have the summers that they wanted, really kind of coming through and looking so much better and so much happier, at this event. So we had Abby Wood winning that 200 IM and the 400 IM. And then I thought Freya Anderson looked great, having probably not been as pleased as she could be in the summer. So, yeah, I think really, really encouraging. Loads of names to mention, but those are just a couple.
Just going back to the Abby Wood situation, Steve, a word for Dave Hemmings, who's never, ever faltered in his belief for Abby Wood. When she's had a dip and she's not been quite on her form, he's always fully and totally and utterly believed in her, and reaping the rewards now at just the right time.
Well, indeed, and I wanted to talk about Abby because she had a bit of a strange situation, long course worlds in the summer, where she didn't get to swim the 200 IM, focused on the 200 free for the relay and the individual, and it was great to see her back swimming those medleys at the sort of level that she was swimming them in the ISL in 2021, I think, or 21, when she first kind of broke through after, to being a really top quality short course swimmer after the Olympics. Or maybe it was 2020 she broke through. I've lost track. But anyway, one of those ISL seasons, she really came through, didn't she? And kind of stamped her mark and made everyone sit up and take notice. It was 2020. There we are. And she's back at that level of performance. And hopefully now she'll get backed to do the medleys, because that's clearly her bread and butter, her best events, I would say. She's a great freestyler, but a really, really great medley swimmer. So fingers crossed that she'll get that support to take those events on in the summer. But terrific, she won, as you say, 2 golds in the medleys as well. So that was excellent for her. In those medleys, she was followed home in the 400 IM by Freya Colbert, who had a good week as well, Katie. I mean, she took that silver in over 400 medley, and then a bronze from an outside lane in the 200 free, and that's really good for her.
Yeah, I feel like I just say the same thing about Freya Colbert every time, but it just seems like she's getting better every single time she swims. And and I don't really know what her best event is at the moment, but I think her 200 free is not a medal that I saw coming. She's obviously great at 200 free, but it's such a stacked, close event, and she just took the chance. And I don't know how much time she's dropped in 200 free in the last year, but she just every time touches the water gets faster and faster. So I still don't think we've seen the best of her. I think we could see her in quite a few individual events this summer. And I couldn't tell you what they're going to be. I could give you quite a long short list, but I think she's got a real chance in, she could make a 200 backstroke, she could make some medleys, she could make freestyle. I don't know if she's really concentrating on the 400 free, although had she had the chance to swim it this week, I think she could have had a medal in the 400 free as well. I'm sure we'll touch on that later, but yeah, she's really interesting, exciting swimmer.
Have our 4x2 girls qualified for Paris yet?
Not officially, but yes.
They were fourth, weren't they, in Fukuoka, which doesn't guarantee them a spot, but it would be remarkable if 13 teams got past them so that they didn't qualify in Doha. So I think they're almost.
Will they have to go? They probably won't have to go then.
They don't have to go, no, because they're in the hat with that performance. As I say, the chances of them not being in the top 16 after Doha are vanishingly small. I think the bigger question is whether British Swimming actually take them, but I would like to think that they would. So we will see how that pans out. But yeah, there's plenty of promise in that quartet, so I'd like to see them go. But we'll probably talk more about that next year as things shake out. You mentioned Dave Hemmings there, Bob, coaching Abby Wood. He's also recently started coaching Medi Harris, who's moved from Swansea to Loughborough. She swam her first ever international 200 metres backstroke and just kept knocking time off left, right and centre and took a fabulous gold. I was so impressed with the way she swam that.
And we were impressed with her when we first saw her break through, weren't we? We said, here's a real talent. Keep tabs on her because she's going to be very good. And, it takes a while, obviously, try and keep that upward curve going. and maybe she plateaued a little bit for a while, but you could always see that there was great resilience in there. And I'm sure Dave is exactly the right kind of person to take her forward as well. I think there's every evidence that she's going to be a part of the real movers and shakers when it comes to the 200 back next year.
Yeah, no, she did terrifically well. I mean, the British record in that event is crazy fast, 2 minutes point something that Lizzie Simmons did. Jewel in the pool, I think. But the Welsh record, the Scottish record, both went because Medi obviously broke the Welsh record. Katie Shanahan, who won the silver in that event behind Medi, broke the Scottish record. And Katie is another one, Katie, that keeps impressing. Taking time off. 200 back, we've said before, we think is probably her best event. It's a bit of a strange one, long course in the world at the moment, but we'd like to see her focus on that, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she's in with a chance of a spot. 400 AM, 200 back, 200 AM. Don't know if she's going to turn her hand to anything else in the next year. I would be surprised, I think, if Medi targeted the 200 back, because I think it is a really different animal, long course to short course. But I'm very happy to be surprised by that. But I think Katie's certainly our best long course 200 backstroke prospect, and I think that's one where, depending who the second American that gets through is, that the podium's not sewn up completely. I think the first two places are, but I think it is one where there's possibly a chance. And as you say, she keeps dropping time left, right, and centre. So, who knows what we'll see in a few months' time. But I feel pretty excited about her, and I think when you see a lot of the social media posts and things from the group that we have, that GB has, and going on their altitude training camps and stuff, they seem to be really, really gelling well and having a good time together and look really happy as a team, which I think is a great sign.
Do you not think Medi could do the 100 and the 200 in Paris?
I think she could, but I think 200 back is disgusting, if I'm honest. It's a real...
because you didn't do it?
I did do it.
Did you?
It's a real killer of the legs. And so I think it depends where that sits around medley relays and around 100 individual and around like mixed medleys and stuff like that.
It's a longer program in Paris, though.
Yeah, it is. And like, obviously she's great at 200 free, so she's got that 200... I forgot what the word is. What's the word where you can keep going? Endurance. But I don't know. 200 back is an absolute killer. That is all I would say.
I just wondered whether that was a bit of a test to see how she felt and where she could move on. That's short course, not long course. But I just wonder whether that was kind of a suck it and see example. And do you know what? Did really well in that. Why would I want to drop it now?
I suppose it's like we used to see Fran Housel when she was swimming do some incredible 200 frees short course, but she wouldn't touch it long course. And I feel like that's kind of a parallel in that Medi's always been 100 focused, and I don't know if there's enough time to get that 200 long course. But she's training with Dave, and if anyone can get her there, it's Dave. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it. But it's just a tough move, I think.
Just as a related aside, looking at the Olympic programme, 200 back clashes with the women's 4x2 relay, which, if they go, Medi would probably be a key part of.
They're not medal prospects, are they?
They are. No. They were fourth. And I think they are medal prospects, unless Canada suddenly find themselves some people who aren't going to break their hands and dislocate their knees, and I don't think they're going to have their 4x2
move to the
team
Philippines.
There. Yeah, exactly. I think they genuinely are a medal prospect. I think there's a bronze there for the taking, and I think if Freya Colbert keeps dropping time like she is, then it's a real possibility. Right.
Well, that will all become clearer when we get to trials. That's quite all right. No. It's an interesting little side. Katie, you've already mentioned Freya Anderson, who you thought was looking good. She won an excellent gold over 200 free and a bronze from almost nowhere at 75 metres in the 100 free. We always love seeing her win medals.
Yeah, and it's kind of good. I haven't seen her Freya Anderson closing speed for a little bit, and it's good to see that back. And I know, like, part of it was that I think there's a the Czech girl who got the silver in the 200 free might have overcooked herself slightly on the first 75 of the 200 free, and Freya just was like, "Thank you, I'll have that." But I don't feel like I've seen it as much as we used to comment on it, like that incredible last 50. But it feels like she's got it all right now. She can go out fast, she can close fast, and she just looked like she was having a great time. So that's great.
No, really, really good. We like to see her with a smile on her face, and she looked like she was having a good time out there. She won a lot of relays as well as those two individuals, and came away with a couple of medals from it all. In the 100, she was just behind Anna Hopkin, who took a silver medal. Now, Katie and I, Bob, got this the wrong way around because we both thought Michelle Coleman was going to win it, and I confidently said that Anna would beat Beryl Castaldello, but of course Beryl did the business and won it. But terrific for Anna, just keep getting herself on international podiums. Yeah,
exactly. Again, consistent. What she's done over the last few years, just accumulatively. I think a lot of people thought, oh yeah, she's a 50 freestyler, and kind of put all their resources or all their thoughts towards that. But she's proving that she's not one trick pony, and she will be a very important part of our 4x1 team for next year.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention her relay prowess. She's obviously got an NC2A pedigree for swimming in a smaller pool, but she dropped Katie a 22.9 split in the women's 4x50, and we know she's a great relay swimmer anyway, but that's always great to see people dropping times like that for the team.
Yeah, she's another one that seems to massively step up when it comes to relays, and it's just that those are people you just need when when we're a nation like we are, possibly in contention, sometimes on the outside of contention for medals in relay sports. To have someone that you can just rely on to do an incredible takeover followed by an incredible swim is, I think, a real asset.
Indeed. And while we're talking about very fast relay splits, Imogen Clark, she took bronze individually in the women's 50 breast, which was great because there were some extremely fast ladies in that one. But she also dropped the third fastest ever 50 meter breaststroke split in a medley relay, which 28.66. The only 2 times faster by a certain Yulia Efimova, who we probably will move on from, perhaps.
So the fastest ever clean, clean 50 breast.
I couldn't possibly comment, but no, but she was excellent, I thought, and we hope that she will be able to do something next year when she has to deal with the 100 rather than the 50 come Olympic trials. While we're on the subject of breaststroke, I'm just going to step away from European short course for a second because we've been watching some recent development from Anne Garrett-Evans. I think she goes by Harry, so I apologise if I get that wrong, but who's taken some big steps forward long course at the Rotterdam meet, taking big chunks out of her PB to get into the low 107s long course, as well as taking big chunks off her 50 and 200. But at the weekend at the Scottish short course in Edinburgh, she went 104.5 short course, which is just 0.13 off Molly Renshaw's British record in that event. And we love an Olympic season bolter, Katie, don't we?
Oh yes, it's my favourite part, and it's always women's breaststroke. So she's definitely right up there.
She got a brother who swims, who could do with him.
Yeah, we can find another one there. On the men's side, actually, though, at the same meet in Edinburgh, Bob, we saw one more of David Davies' British records go down.
Birdman's back again. And,
exactly.
And a really, really nice upbeat interview he gave after that race as well. Again, he's probably had a few demons in terms of not being able to replicate what he did at Olympic trials last time round. And, maybe he's finding his form, finding his touch, finding his rhythm, just the right time, I think, the 400 was good. The 800 was exceptional. So that's all looking good because that's exactly what we need. They are very much barren areas for us right now.
Well, indeed. And long course in Rotterdam, he swam his first sub 3:48, I think, swim since those Olympic trials when he went 3:46 flat. So hopefully it's all starting to come back together for him as we head into Olympic season. Right. Moving back towards European short course, had a couple of questions. Actually, before we move on to the questions, I've forgotten him again, because when we were talking before, I'd forgotten to include him. We have to talk about Daniel Whiffen if we're talking 800 freestyle. Absolutely astonishing, Bob.
Ridiculous. Beating the world record by just about 3 seconds, a record that's been on the books for a long time now, Grant Hackett. Wasn't it just great watching that red line disappearing behind his feet? It wasn't on his arms, it wasn't on his torso, it wasn't on his bum, it wasn't on his feet. It disappeared behind his feet. It wasn't kind of, is he going to do it? Is it tight? Like it was in the 15. The 8 was absolutely superb. And, he's waiting for that big breakthrough, Olympics-wise, world-wise. He's come so close, been right on the cusp. I think it's coming. Next year.
Well, it was a great race to watch, Katie, and I know you and I thought that he needed to be a bit further ahead of the mark halfway, because we know that Grant Hackett tended to come back, very consistently and pick it up at the end. But he got to halfway just about on par with the mark, and then, as Bob says, just swam away from it completely.
Yeah, he just took off, and I really thought, because I think that Andy Jameson kept saying, Grant Hackett, last 100 was so fast, it was so fast. And he was like, see you, Grant Hackett, I'm actually going to go a lot faster than you did on the last 100, and just swam away from it. So, it was so cool, because I think this is the only year in, I don't know however long, that we hadn't had a world record, a short course world record. And he just took it, and it's probably the last opportunity that anyone's got to do it pretty much this year. So always nice, last race, individual race of the meet, to see someone keep that streak going. And also, it's just really cool that someone from Ireland doing it.
Yeah, the twins do look so similar, don't they? I know twins generally do, but those two they are the proclaimers of swimming, aren't they?
That's one way of describing it. Yes, indeed. Yeah. But congratulations to Dan, who's a fantastic swim. Obviously to Andy Manley, who coaches him at Loughborough, has done a fantastic job with him. And we look forward to seeing what he does when the long course season rolls around, because he's making people take notice, which is a nice place to be in.
Can we sign him up for GB?
Yeah, I think that might be a bit of a struggle. So let's just be thankful for the performances that he's put in, and enjoy the swimming rather than worrying about that. Anyway, moving on, there were some questions that came in, as I said. Question that a lot of people, or a comment that a lot of people pointed at me, was the scheduling, which was a bit eccentric, so we say. I think I gather from listening to the commentary, etc., that the 100 free, 200 free men's events were scheduled to make sure that the finals were Saturday and Sunday for David Popovich, and to get the crowd in. But regardless of that, Katie, there were some really bizarre clashes of events all through the week, and there has to be a better way.
It all seemed to happen at the end as well. It was like, because of getting those two events on the Friday and the Saturday and Sunday, which made absolutely no sense whatsoever, because it actually wouldn't have benefited Popovich or anyone else. It seemed to suddenly, like the first few days were fine. I didn't notice anything weird, and then it suddenly all seemed to be totally pants towards the end. And like, there's definitely a better way. That does not have to happen. It's never happened before. I doubt it'll ever happen again. I get really cross when people do things like that are not to the benefit of the athletes. I just think it's really, really, really stupid, and it shouldn't happen. There's no excuse for it. I know people in Romania want to see David Popovich swim, but I just don't think there was any need to do that. It doesn't benefit any of the other people who are in the final. It doesn't benefit him. Bums on seats, great. Make it Friday night and Sunday night. That would be totally doable for lots of people to watch, but it's just silly.
One of the things, Bob, that maybe would have helped is both things that could have helped: scratch the semi-finals in the 200 events, and maybe have no heats final in the distance events, and just go heats and fastest heat. Yeah, what do you reckon?
I don't disagree with that. Actually, when you've got a fairly small entry list, why not? You haven't got 8-9 heats in most of these events, so you could easily do that. And there's obviously, though we're extending the Olympic program, there's a lot of people saying that maybe 50s and obviously 50 free and the 100 should be the only ones that have semi-finals.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thought. I mean, the World Short Course, I don't think, had semi-finals in the 200 events last year. So, it's a bit strange that we had them here with smaller fields. But that would have helped freed up the programme quite a lot to spread out the thing. So we don't have things like the 50 fly and the 100 fly for women in the same session, which was another really bizarre one. But there we are. So please do better next year or in 2 years' time. European Aquatics, I think we're saying on that one. Next question came in from Kat Stevens, who's a regular listener, I know. She wondered how we thought 4x50 relays would go down internationally if we swam them long course as well as short course. Katie, throw that one at you.
I'm not really into it, to be honest. It was it's fine for this weekend. I enjoyed them in the ISL. I don't think we need more relays. I think we've got plenty now, particularly with the mixed ones in. They are fun, but it's just another one for Australia to win. I think another 2 for Australia, another 4.
That's the original don't want it, okay. Or America. Of course.
No, it's not. I think enough. I think freestylers in particular have packed enough programs as it is, and it would probably only be freestyle because if you're not taking 50, if you're not having individual 50s, then you're not going to have your strongest team in the medley, are you? Because a 50 breaststroker is very different from a 100 breaststroker, I think. So yeah, it's fun at European Short Course. I enjoyed swimming them at European Short Course, but I don't think they have a place in other international events. I'm very boring. I'm so sorry, Kat.
Bob, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Nothing more to
there
add.
We are. Right, no 4x50 relays the next World Championships, please, World Aquatics. One more question came in from Philip, and I'm going to extend it a little bit. He says, is it too soon to get excited about Team GB's men's relay podium chances in Paris? And I'm going to say, well, is it too soon to get excited about any of our chances in Paris? Bob, can we start getting excited now?
4x2?
Yeah.
What? We've been excited for the last 8 years about 4x2. Why would we stop now? No, our 4x2 are going to win it and they're going to break the world record. There's no doubt about that.
I would say you'd heard it here first, but I'm sure other people have said the same thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not an original thought, but no, they got so close last time round, and they're going to be a better quartet this time round.
Right, now Casey, let's widen it out from just the men's relays then, because we know we are all excited about the 4x2 and the 4x1 amongst the men. Is it too soon to get excited about our chances more generally, off the back of a European short course?
I don't think this is well, I know this has made me more excited. I was going to say I'm just excited in general, but I think this has made me more excited. So no, Philip, you're late. It's not too soon. We've been excited for ages, and I think I am more excited because there are a couple of squads that have looked a bit off or sort of not quite their best selves that really performed over the last week, that I now feel a lot more confident about where they are and how they're all feeling and how they're training and racing. So I'm excited.
Men's medley relay does depend so much on Mr. Petey there.
Yeah, it will do, yes, unless we find someone else in the next 6 months.
Which is not going to happen, I don't think.
Doesn't seem likely, does it? No. One thing I meant to mention earlier, and I've forgotten actually, but this is a good point to bring it in while we're talking medley relays, was Kathleen Dawson. Now, we spoke about her on our preview because she'd been funded and we weren't sure where she was at, etc., etc. But she looked much better, Katie, this week. Yeah,
I think some of her performances are really encouraging. I actually thought her 200 back. I know she was third GB home, so she didn't make the final, but her 200 was great. I think she did 205, something like that. And she's not even a 200 swimmer. 100, great, just got faster and faster through the rounds. So definitely feel encouraged. And it's great that we've got Medi doing so well and Katie, as we've discussed already. So we've got backstroke options, but really good to see her getting back to where she was. And I hope that we see more of that over the next year long course.
Yes, indeed. All right. I think that's a good point to draw things to a close, unless Bob, you want any final thoughts on European short course?
No, well, the most successful we've ever had. Great news every night, medals every night, and isn't it great to be top of the medal table?
Yes, indeed. And they took a big team, 35 swimmers to Romania, so I always felt that we would be competitive on the medal table, but it was the quality of the performance, I think, Casey, that really made it exciting. Not just winning medals, but winning medals and swimming fast.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how. I don't think I was particularly optimistic when we did our preview show, because I just assumed that everyone would be in the sort of everything aches and it's winter and not quite Christmas phase of training, but how wrong I was. They all look great. So it's a very nice place to have a little Christmas break and get excited for next year.
And it made for a very enjoyable chat with some medals and British records and whatever else to talk about on this episode of the podcast. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Katie. Great to run over it all. With you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
We'll be back with you next year now. This is our last podcast for 2023. So thanks to everyone who's listened to us this year. We've had some exciting swimming amongst Britain's swimmers and medals galore at Worlds and European short course now. So it's been a fun one. If you want to get in contact in the meantime, find me on X at Poolboy or Instagram at PoolboyUK, or go to poolboy.co.uk/contact if you want to send an email, which is how Philip sent his questions in. So thank you for those. And until we're back with you in 2024 Olympic year, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Poolboy podcast. For more episodes, visit www.poolboy.co.uk/podcast.